Hey, happy campers, Todd here, Great American RV SuperStores, and we're on the front of our Heartland Bighorn 32RS. We're going to be doing a technical walkthrough on this unit just like you got with your technician on the date of delivery. We're going to go over some of the components on here, show you the operation. If you want a deeper dive on those components, or if your components differ a little, you can find more information on that in our Great American RV SuperStores YouTube channel under the Helpful Hacks playlist. We're going to start here in the front. Of course, we have our 7-way plug. Our 7-way plug will plug into our truck that we're towing with. That is going to transfer all of our lights for our vehicle to the trailer. And we're also going to have a charge line in here that is going to go to our battery and help keep that charged while we're traveling down the road off of the alternator of that truck. Now on here, we're also going to have from our brake controller through here to our brakes, that brake control line that will activate the brakes while we're traveling and we initiate that brake system. We're also going to have our breakaway cable here that's going to lead to our breakaway box. We need to make sure that pin is inserted at all times. That way our brakes aren't active whenever we don't want them to be. Then we're going to have this loop right here. This loop needs to be hooked somewhere, maybe on the rails of the fifth wheel hitch, never on the hitch itself. What it's intended to do, if anything ever fails on the hitch or the kingpin, this pin right here is to be pulled out whenever it disconnects, and it's going to activate the brakes on that trailer and bring it to a safe stop. This is only going to work if we have a good 12-volt system on our fifth wheel. If we have bad batteries, that safety system is not going to work. All right, so under our kingpin, we have that storage in the front. To the left of it, we have that toggle switch that operates our cap lights on the front. And if we open up our door, we have access to our battery storage down here. And if we notice, we'll have some resettable breakers. These resettable breakers reset on their own. They're heat operated. So if they get too hot from an over amperage, they'll trip out. So if you notice something not working in your unit, give it a few seconds and see if this kicks back on. These can go out over time. So you can test it with a 12-volt light tester or your meter and see if they are working. You just pull that red cap off and you'll see those prongs. Here we have our battery disconnects. These battery disconnects are for when you are storing your unit unplugged. So you have no power to your unit, you're not using it. Turn these off. That way you're conserving the amount of power in your battery. That way whenever you go back to run your jacks and stuff, when you're picking up your unit, you'll have some battery left in there, which is the cable coming from there. And then the other one is actually going to operate your inverter system. Your inverter changes battery power, your 12-volt battery, it converts it into 110 power. So if you were somewhere and you were not plugged in, you're using your solar power or just your battery power, that solar power is going to charge your battery, and then the inverter is going to change that battery power into 110 power to be able to run small appliances like your TV and anything that you plug into those inverted outlets. Now obviously you can't run everything off of it. It's going to depend on the voltage on the wattage on your inverter, and of course how many batteries you have in here as far as how long it is going to last. Now this right here is a module for that inverter system. That's where your output comes through into 110 in order to run the appliances inside your unit. Now to the left here we have our hydraulic reservoir for our hydraulic slide outs, our jacks, any hydraulic components in here. Now this reservoir is going to have hydraulic fluid in it. You will need to check it, maintain, make sure you have a proper amount in there. But in order to do that, you want to make sure everything is retracted. So slide outs need to be retracted, all of your jacks need to be retracted, everything. That way all the fluid is in this tank, and then you're checking your level. You refill right here. We don't want to add fluid to it if we have something extended, because what's going to happen is, you know, put that fluid in there and you retract everything, that fluid's going to build up and it's going to make a big mess in this compartment. So you don't want to do that. You do have two 250 amp fuses right here. One is for that battery disconnect, one's for your inverter system. And then the other one is a resettable 12-volt breaker right back here. That one is going to be for your jack system. So that one you can actually reset. If you ever see it tripped, you'll see that leg pushed out. So you can come here for your hydraulics and check that in the event that it's not working. All right, on the driver's side of our unit, we have our front slide right here. This one is a cable-driven slide signified by the cables on each side of it. You want more information on that particular slide, we do have it in the HAPS Helpful Hacks section of our playlist on Great American RV's YouTube channel. Front compartment is going to be our propane tank. Same thing on the passenger side, another propane tank. And you'll have a dual propane regulator that operates those two tanks. So it operates, you have both tanks on, you're going to have a selector valve. You can choose which tank is your primary. You'll use up that tank. Once it empties out, it will change that indicator to red on the regulator, and it will automatically swap over and start pulling from that secondary tank. Now, that way it doesn't interrupt your feed during use of your LP. Now, once you realize that that one's empty, you can swap over to the other one as your primary, have that other one refilled so you don't run out. So that's how that dual propane regulator works. Behind me here, we have our pass-through compartment where we can access our pass-through, and we have our hydraulic. On this one, it is a 6-point Lippert level-up system. We have our keypad right here. We're going to go over that hydraulic controls on how we auto-level. We also have our convenience center right here for all our water connections. We'll go over those two items now. Here we have our LCI electronic leveling system. This is for our leveling jacks on our unit. Kick it on, and right there on the screen we have our voltage. Voltage is very important on this system. If we don't have a good 12 volts, good battery, this system may not operate correctly. So keep that in mind if you have any faults or issues with the system or errors. Right off the back, when you enter this screen, you can manually go in and start operating your jacks. So when you kick it up and you want to operate just those front leveling jacks, you can just hold that button down. Orange indicator will indicate those are the jacks that are operating. You can also operate them left and right, and same thing if you retract, hold down that retract button and you can hold down the front button and it will drop down. That's only jacks that mode will operate. Right here we'll go into our arrows. This will be what gets you a little bit further. So auto hitch height is after you have auto leveled your unit. So let's say you disconnected from your truck, you went into auto level and you were done camping. You're going to hit that arrow, go into auto hitch height, press enter, and your unit is going to return to the same position you were in whenever you disconnected your truck or pretty close to it. So you can back right up to it and your hitch should line right up. Our next mode is our auto retract all. After we have hooked that hitch up, we're locked in and we're sure that that hitch has the kingpin and we're not going to cause that thing to come off or anything like that. We've checked everything. We can go ahead and hit enter, and this will retract all of our jacks on our unit to where we are ready to head to our next destination. Next mode is auto retract rear. This is only going to bring up the rear jacks and leave your front landing gears down. Our next mode is our manual level mode. So if we want to manually level our unit ourselves, we can hit enter, go into this manual mode, and it's going to tell us where our degree marks are as far as how off level we are. So this will change as you level your unit. Now you have control of all of your jacks, your front and your rear, and then you can adjust it left and right. And like I said, you can see those degree marks kind of change as you level out the unit. Once again, if we have gone too far, we need to retract a little bit. We hold down that retract button until it lights up, and then we can operate whatever ones we wish. Now, one thing that you'll notice is if we kick this unit off level, we can notice we now have a flashing light right here. This indicates that the front is low. So if we're doing that in manual mode, it just makes it a little bit easier. We go ahead and hold that button down. We can also notice our degree mark is climbing right there, and obviously we've hit 0 here. Now we have an indicator that is green. That's letting us know that the unit is level. Same thing on the outsides here. We have more red lights that will indicate if those angles are unlevel. If we hit it one more time after that manual mode, that brings us to our regular ready screen. The other option is we disconnect from our truck and we go straight into auto level. We just hold that button down and then it's going to go through auto leveling your unit. It's important we don't walk around in our unit during that period. We let it go ahead and level out until it says complete, or you may see this screen right here should have a green light in the middle. If you have any errors, then you'll have to assess that through the troubleshooting. LCI has great literature on what to do. We also have some other videos that go through some steps on that as well. All right, so here we are in our control center. We have our spray port. We hook that coil quick connect in there. We'll have hot and cold water spray port accessible outside. We have our 3 ports right here. One is going to be for satellite. One is going to be for cable. Our cable would come from our park cable, obviously, and all these ports run to the inside of our unit everywhere we have a TV, including our exterior. Now here we have all of our connections for our city water, the different options for our knobs here. The white one right here, that is our city water connection. That's where we'll run the hose from the campsite, hook it up to provide water to the interior of our tank or fill our tanks. So we'll move to that. First off, we'll touch on city water. City water is just if you have that connection at the campground, we'll go ahead and turn our valves to that sequence right there, and that water will go straight to our faucets. If we are wanting to dry camp, the first thing we'll need to do is fill our tanks. So we'll go to power fill tank. Once again, we'll have a hose hooked up to a water bib to fill that, and we're changing our sequence to that, and this will begin to fill the tank on our units. We have that onboard storage for our fresh water. This is for if we are going to a campground or stopping anywhere on the road and we want water and we don't have a water source, we'll come and fill that tank, and then in order to use it, we'll turn to that dry camping sequence, turn those valves to that, and then we'll turn our water pump on, and it will pull from that tank and provide water to our system. Our next one is winterization. All right, so we'll turn those valves this way for winterization, and this is for when we want to winterize our unit for the winter time and protect our pipes. So we would first go to our low point drains, which we'll talk about the location of that a little bit later. We'll open up those low point drains, blow the water out of our system, turn our knobs to this, and we'll hook a hose from here and put it into a gallon of RV antifreeze. Now, we'll take several gallons to fill this unit, so you do it one at a time. You turn that water pump on, and you open up all your fixtures in your unit until antifreeze comes out. You swap that jug out as needed. This changes that system up to pull from that antifreeze jug and fill that system. The last one is siphon sanitize via tank pump. Now that system is if you want to sanitize your tank system, basically same concept. You're pulling from here with a mixture of water and bleach into your system if you want to sanitize it, but it goes into your fresh tank. So as we were saying, this is our city water connection. That's where you'll hook that hose up. This one is our black tank flush. This is for when we are flushing out that sewage tank. That's where you'll hook your hose up here and kick that water on to flush that tank out. We'll go over a little bit more information on that when we get to our actual black tank dump valve. All right, so behind our pass-through bay compartment, we have our Suburban water heater right here. That is going to be a tanked water heater that works off of electric and propane. And then we have our furnace, which is a propane operated device as well. Both of these have exhaust on here, so when they're operating off of that propane, they are going to get a little warm, so be mindful of that. Down here we have our sewer connection where we'll hook up our sewer hose and put it down to a dump station to be able to empty it out. And in order to empty out, of course, we have our valves. We have our wastewater valve right here through the frame. You can see that sticking out there. And then we have a gray water tank here and a gray water tank valve there. So we have two gray tanks and a black tank on here. Our gray tanks are our shower water and our sink water coming from our bathrooms and kitchen. And if we have that hose hooked up, we can leave that gray tank valve open all the time. We can let that water drain out. Of course, if we don't have a dump station where we're at, we'll leave it closed until we get to one. But that can stay open all the time and drain out. That's fine. Our black tank, however, we need to keep it closed until we're ready to dump. So we hook up our sewer connection and we open up that black tank valve and we go ahead and dump it out. And then we hook a hose up to our black tank flush in our convenience center right here, and we turn it on, and there's a jet on the other side of the tank that's going to help push any debris that's in that tank down towards our valve and help flush it out. Now it's going to do a pretty good job. If you want to go a step further, there is a pro tip, but this is on you. It is not recommended by the manufacturer by any means. It's just a tip, but if you mess it up, it's on you. You have to monitor how much water you're putting in here if you do this. You can close that black tank valve and let it fill up with some water and then open it back up. That's going to help flush it out a little bit better and help pick up some of that debris and let it float down towards the valve. We can do that by just closing that black tank valve and letting that black tank flush run for 60 seconds or so and then flush it out. If we don't pay attention, we can definitely overflow into our unit with that black tank water. It's going to be a huge mess, and that is completely on you. If you decide to do that and take that risk, 100%, this is your warning. So just keep that in mind. You can do that, or you can just do it the recommended way from the manufacturer and just let that hose fill it out. Once you are done, you are satisfied with your flush, disconnect your black tank flush, close your black tank valve, go to your toilet, hold that valve down, and let your tank fill up with several gallons of water. Want to do this because anything that's in that tank can solidify, so I always want to have a couple of gallons of water in there, and then we also want to put our chemicals in there too. So at all times, always have a couple gallons of water in that black tank. Never just leave that valve wide open. If we do that, anything that's in there is going to solidify. It's going to be impossible to get out of there. We also want to make sure that we use RV toilet paper only, so it'll decompose with the solids and the chemicals in there. It'll decompose and come out. If we don't, we can cause some issues with drainage in our system, and we don't want to put anything in there besides our waste and our toilet paper. We put anything else, once again, it can get clogged up in those pipes. So keep those in mind. That's a very important thing to talk about with our black tank system. Over here we have our red and blue lines. Those are our low point drains. You'll see those sticking out with some valves on the end. If we want to prep our unit for winterization like we talked about in that convenience center, we open those valves, let the water drain out, and then we can blow the air through the system, close them off, and fill our unit with antifreeze to prepare for the winter. On our slide out, still on the driver's side, we have that vent up there. That is to exhaust for our hood vent over our oven. If we want to use that, we need to make sure those two tabs are unlocked and open. When we store our unit, we want to make sure they are closed so no insects can build any nests in there. Under our J-wrap, right behind our axles, we'll see a little blue line sticking out with a valve on it. That is for our fresh tank. That fresh tank that we filled in our convenience center, that's how you drain it. Open that valve up, empty it out. Remember, this is added weight to your unit. If you're not going to use that water, just drain it out. If you're not going to use that water anyways, drain it out so the water doesn't become stagnant and in that tank as well. Moving to the back of our unit, we have our 50 amp twist lock power cord right here. That is to supply 110 power to our unit. We always want to put it in, turn it to the right, lock it in. They have a little retainer ring on there. You want to tighten that up so there's no arcing or space left in the gap of that plug and cause any arcing or electrical issues. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and plug it into our 50 amp service and then kick on the power to our unit. We want to make sure that our ACs are off so we're not causing any surges to that AC when we first plug it in. On the rear of our unit, we can see we are prepped with the power for our Furrion backup camera system. If you want to purchase that system added on there, the wiring is already there. And you'll notice a bracket up in the top right. That bracket is for our Lippard on-the-go ladder system. If you want to purchase that telescopic ladder to gain access to your roof, that system is already installed on here. You can do that. We do need to gain access to our roof. We need to check it after trips and make sure that no low-lying tree limbs snagged that rubber and damaged it. If so, we need to jump on taking care of that right away. We also need to clean our roof and inspect our sealants. We need to inspect sealants on the roof as well as all of our sidewalls, trim, everything where you see sealant. We need to check that every 60 to 90 days required by the manufacturer. We need to check for any peeling, deterioration, or tearing or anything of that manner with our sealants. Clean it off, reseal it, and make sure we're using the appropriate sealant when we do. Otherwise, manufacturers aren't going to participate in repairs involving any water leaks. So make sure we take care of that. Just like we change the oil in our car, we have to maintain it. We have to maintain our camper too, so it'll last for years to come. All right, so on the passenger side of our unit, we have that front storage center right here. That is for our other LP tank. We have our pass-through storage right here, and we have our solar control center. That is where our solar panels right there, that power comes down to that controller and it turns it into charging power for our battery system. We can monitor that there. We also have a connection for our outdoor TV as well as a GFCI protected outlet there and here. We want to plug griddles and so on and so forth in there. If those outlets aren't working, we're going to go to our main GFCI outlet on the inside and reset that. We'll touch on that a little bit later. Just keep in mind, these are GFCI protected outlets. We're also going to have a little button in here. That button is for our inverter system that we talked about in there. Changes power from 12 volts to 110. we would go ahead and kick that on if we want that inverter system to work. And that is, once again, if we are boondocking and we don't have shore power. On our entry door, we will find some resistance when we open and close that door. That is because we do have friction controlled hinges. That's to help to keep the wind from slamming that door open or shut, banging against your unit. You do have the solid steps right here. These solid steps can be stored pretty easily by lifting them up. We'll put them into the frame of our door. We need to pull that little blue latch right there to make sure we are allowing that latch to go around our frame. Give them a little tug and make sure that that is set in place properly and our door closes properly, ready for transport. We're ready to set them out. We want to auto level our unit first and then come over here and do our steps. We pull that blue latch. We can go ahead and drop it down. And the reason I say auto level is because we also have to level out our steps. In order to do that, we can push this little silver latch right here and we can shift those legs in and out so we can level our steps. This is important not only for safety, for getting in and out of that unit, but we also want to make sure that our threshold is down enough to where this door is going to close properly. And we also want to make sure that our frame of the door isn't hitting the frame of the steps and causing any damage. So make sure we auto level our unit first and then we go ahead and level out our steps. Of course, you have your little grab handle right here. This is extended out. If it was extended in, it'd be in and you'd have this pin down at the bottom. You pull that pin out, pull at the bottom, grab this and you slide that back out. You can stick your pin in right there to put it back, push right there and reinsert your pin. So it's a nice safety rail added feature on there to help you get in and out of your unit. As we walk into our unit, we'll run right into that cabinet. We open it up and we have our control center for our unit. Up here we'll have our battery meter as well as our fresh black and our two gray tanks right here. We push them and it's going to light up and let us know what the levels of that system are. Here we have our tank heaters. This is for our black gray tanks. Anything that is down in that underbelly, we can kick those on. That's going to be a heating pad on those tanks that is going to keep them from freezing up during the winter time and help protect it. Our water pump here is going to be used from that onboard water storage that we filled up, that fresh tank system. If we don't have that water bib at a campground, wherever we're at, we can kick that on and that will pull the water from that tank. If we don't have water in that tank or you hear it running all the time or you're hooked up to city water, turn that system off. This is an on-demand pump. It's only going to operate when water is turned on. So if you hear it running, nothing is on, that means either you're out of water or you have a leak in your system. You don't want to burn that pump up. So just go ahead and get it off, turn it off until you figure out what's wrong. Now our water heater, once again, controlled by a 110 electric heating element, or our 12 volts is going to signify our LP. So if we want to run off of electric, we're plugged in, we can kick that system on, that heating element will turn on, and that system will begin to heat up the water. We want to make sure that our tank is full of water before we use that heating element, otherwise it will burn up. Our 12 volt, we kick that on, we'll notice a DSI fault light right here. That is indicating whether or not there is a fault in the system. You'll initially notice that that kicks on whenever you turn on your LP system, that 12 volt switch, because it hasn't lit yet. It'll go through a sequence, it'll light. If there's any faults, then that light will either stay on or come back on, one of the two. We need to make sure our propane's on before we initiate that system. Down here we have our lights, kitchen, main area right here, and then we have our entry light right here at the entry door. Our hydraulic slides in and out. This is going to control our two living room slides. Our in and out for our awning, obviously our awning, and then our awning light right here. This slide room right here is going to initiate our slide out in our bedroom. And our tank heater right here, that's just another set of tank heaters for the other heaters in our underbelly. All of this stuff is 12 volt controlled, so if we have any issues, we can check those automatic reset breakers in that front compartment or check our 12 volt fuse panel that we'll touch on near the 110 breaker. In your kitchen on this countertop, you will notice you do have that GFCI protected outlet. This is one of those main outlets that I was talking about. If one of your other outlets doesn't work, you're not going to go to your breaker panel, you're going to come to here. Now we'll simulate as if the system was tripped. You'll notice if it is tripped, you'll have an orange light that pops up right here. And then all we have to do is hit that reset button. The other button on here is test button if you want to test that breaker on here to see that it is working properly. If your receptacle trips right off the back after you reset it, go unplug some of those griddles, coffee pots, whatever you might have plugged into those outlets, and then try it again. You may also want to check and make sure those outlets aren't wet as well. Those are two main things that cause these to trip. In our kitchen, we will notice if we open that door, we have our 110 breakers right here and our 12-volt fuses. So we talked about any 12-volt components. They're all labeled right here. We know what to look for if something goes wrong. We can check these fuses and see if they're burnt out. Generally, you're going to have a little red light in there if a fuse is burnt out. Our 110 breakers, obviously, they'll be tripped if we have any issues with those. Once again, everything is labeled. You also kind of hear a little fan back here whenever you're plugged in. That is your converter system running. Converter system is basically a battery charger. It's going to be charging your batteries whenever you're plugged into that shore power and keeping them maintained. Down at the bottom of our island, we have that COLP detector right down here. We'll notice a little green light indicating that it is on, powered up. That is a hardwired device into our 12-volt system. So anytime we have battery power, of course, that system should be on and operating. It's going to make you aware of any cautious gases by alarming you, kind of like a smoke detector. You'll have that chirp. You do need to test that every now and again, pushing that test button. It's going to go through a series of chirps, and it'll let you know that that system is operating. Now, these do have an expiration date on them, either on the front or if you undo the two screws, it may be stamped on the back. They're good for about 5 years. We do need to change those out when that time comes. Our kitchen table is extendable. We flip that up right there. We make sure that these latches are locked in. To pull them down, we pull those down at the bottom, and we can just drop it back down. We need to make sure that we put that down before we roll the slide out in so we're not causing any damage. Now, we do have a residential refrigerator in this unit. They are going to be 110 power. That's why we call them residential. You're going to have a different series depending on the type of unit, different series of operations on these. Most all of them are going to have with that quick cool mode or quick freeze mode, where it's going to quickly cool down the refrigerator or quickly cool down your freezer, and you can change your zone temperatures on that screen as well. Most of them are also going to have a lock screen. You hold down that lock on there, and then you can go and make those adjustments. They do that way the kids can't mess everything up, right? So you're going to have mid drawers. It varies on what model and series you have on here. You'll definitely have that freezer. One thing to keep in mind, when you go to store your unit, you're not plugged in, that system is going to defrost. So we need to make sure we get all our ice out of there, get any water that's in that system out, because if that water drains out and damages those wood components, manufacturers are not going to cover that. So make sure that we are defrosting and cleaning out our unit. This is also going to lessen the chance that you get any mold or mildew in your fridge. You're always going to have travel latches on your refrigerator. You want to make sure that you use those so that way your stuff doesn't come flying out and cause any damage, and you don't have a mess all over your unit. 110 powered, once again, if that inverter system is kicked on, you don't have shore power, it is going to pull off your batteries and operate that refrigerator. All right, we have our 110 operated microwave, obviously, and we have a 3-burner stove right here with a glass top. We can leave that glass top down for more counter space. When we are traveling, it always needs to be down, otherwise this glass is going to fall and break. Under all of that, when we flip it up, we have our 3-burner stove right here, gas operated. Make sure your propane is on, and you can turn the knob to that light option, hit your igniter, and then we can go ahead and light that stove top. Now, we always want to bleed the air out of our propane system before we go operate things like our furnace or our LP water heater. This is to help reduce the opportunity for any faults in that system. And we do that by coming to our stove first. So why do we need to bleed air out of our system? Well, anytime we pull our unit out of storage and we have the valves off on that propane, you're generally going to end up with air in the system, or if you change the tanks out, once again, air in your system. Easiest place to do that is come to your stove and light it. Turn your propane tanks on, come to 1 or 2 of the burners, turn it to light, and just hold that igniter button down until it lights. It may take a little bit of time because, once again, that air is coming out. Once it lights, Let it run for about 30 to 60 seconds, and you have a nice blue flame all the way around, and then you can go operate those other items. It's going to make them operate a lot quicker and make sure you don't have any faults. Now, this one is a Suburban stovetop. Pretty much all of them are going to run the same. You're also going to have your oven down here at the bottom. Now, your oven pilot, the only difference is you're going to have to turn and hold this button down on the pilot on option, and that is going to allow, once again, we're purging that air out of the system, and we're allowing gas to get into that burner tube. While we're doing that, we need to hold down that ignite button so that igniter will begin to try to light that pilot. We look down there, we see that pilot is lit. And once it's lit, we can stop igniting. Just hold that pilot down for about 30 seconds or so, and then we can turn to our temperature. We're heating up that thermocouple in that system to make sure that it knows, hey, we're lit. Otherwise, it will automatically shut off that gas valve and it will not try to operate. If it goes out, we just want to go back to that pilot on option, push it down, and we want to relight that system. Now, I always tell customers, first time you light it, once again, if the air is still in that system, first time you light it, it is going to take a little bit of time, even still, for that oven pilot to light. So just be patient whenever you're operating it. All right, our entertainment for our living room. Of course, we have a TV. There is a port back here with two coax connections. One is going to be for your satellite, and we can hook a receiver there and then go to our TV. The other one is going to be cable and air antenna. Down here we have our JBL radio with zones A and B to control your interior and exterior speakers, these being our interiors. And then below that we have our 110 operated fireplace. That is going to be an electric fireplace. We'll go over the operation of that now. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up: 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these two buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. You're also going to have smoke detectors in your unit that are powered by those 9-volt batteries. You need to check and make sure that those batteries are in good condition and that system is working as well. All right, in our hallway, we got a switch that operates our hall light, of course, and then we have a GE thermostat. We'll go over the operation of that now. This is our GE thermostat. We have several buttons right here. Our mode button, when you push it once, it's going to bring us to the fan mode. Now this will turn the fan on and let it run all the time. It will not cool your unit. It just circulates the air throughout it. If we hit our fan button down at the bottom, we can see it goes from a higher speed to a lower speed. Hit it one more time with those two dashes. That will bring that fan to the high speed. If we hit mode again, we will see our cool snowflake pop up there at the top. That lets us know that we are now in cool mode. On the right hand side, we can adjust our temperature to whatever we want. Now if we are in the cool mode, we see auto right here. This will mean that the fan will turn off whenever the compressor turns off and turn on whenever the compressor turns on, much like your AC at home. Now during the hot summer months, you're going to want to take it from auto and go regular into a fan mode on, generally in high. This will help keep the fins on that air conditioner dry in between cycles of the compressor, and this helps reduce the opportunity for that air conditioner to freeze up. So on any temperature over 90 degrees or so, I suggest leaving that fan in the on mode where it is running all the time. If we hit mode one more time, if we have a furnace hooked up to it, which is generally a gas appliance, it will go. Here we are in our bathroom area. Pretty common. We have our shower, hot and cold faucets. We have our shower head. Only thing different in an RV is you'll see these buttons on here. That is to turn the shower head off and on. And we use this whenever we are dry camping maybe. If we are trying to conserve the amount of water we're putting into our gray tank as well as the water that we're using from our fresh tank, it's just an easier way to stop that shower when we want to, in between rinsing and lathering up, and we won't have to try to find that sweet spot on our faucet for the hot water again. So just keep that in mind. If you want to use it, you can. If you hook city water, don't worry about it. Just use it like normal. All of our showers do have travel latches on there with those glass doors. We want to make sure that they are not swaying around while we're driving down the road, keep them from breaking. And then we're also going to have an exhaust vent in this bathroom. It's suggested that we go ahead and open that up, turn that fan on. That way we can get any heat and humidity out of here and reduce the opportunity for mold and mildew. You are going to find another GFCI protected outlet in this bathroom. It's going to work just like the one in the bunkhouse area that we talked about. If we have some outlets that aren't working, we want to go there and make sure that system isn't tripped out. We have our toilet right here. We talked about that. That goes to our black tank, right? RV toilet paper only, sewage, and our chemicals. In order to operate this toilet, we have our little foot pedal right here. That's how we flush our system. If we're doing number one, that's our liquids only, right? We're just hitting that pedal and we're flushing it down. Number two, solids. Then we want to make sure that we fill that bowl up about halfway to 3/4 of the way. And we can do that by barely pushing that pedal down, and that will begin to fill that tank up with water. And then we can flush down those solids. We want to do that because we want to make sure we have enough water to actually flush toilet paper and those solids down that tank. If not, we can cause some clogging issues in the pipe. In our bedroom, we do have a second AC thermostat in here that's going to operate this AC right here. Both of your ceiling assemblies are going to look like this. You're going to have your filter right here. We squeeze those two tabs down and we can drop that down and clean our filter for our AC system. We need to do that fairly regularly so we're not restricting the flow into our AC and that it is working properly. Here we do have another vent with a little latch. We can open that up. That is a quick dump valve. Once again, you have another one in your living room area. Now your unit is ducted, so you have these AC vents running all through it. When this quick dump valve is closed, meaning you can't see through it, then that means that air is going to transfer through those ceiling ducts and ventilate throughout the unit just like it would at your house. Now if you want to cool this area off quickly, say we just got to the campground or whatever and we wanted to cool it off quickly in just this room, we open that vent up and that air will just push out of this. But if we want to circulate it, we need to close that off so it'll go through our ducts. Over to the left, we have another location for our TV, and we're going to notice two ports right here. One is going to say auxiliary satellite. That is going to be from those satellite ports outside. And then the other one is going to be TV. That is going to be antenna and cable. So when we're scanning for air channels, there's a little button next to that TV coax. When we push that button off and on, we'll see a little green light turn off and on. That light indicates our antenna booster. Anytime we're scanning for those air channels, we want that antenna booster on. So we want that light on. If we want to scan for cable channels, we need to turn it off so it doesn't scramble the channels from the campground. The antenna boost helps us pick up more channels, more air channels in that area. We also have right here, if your unit came equipped with it, is that WineGuard gateway system. That WineGuard gateway system is basically a router. And if we are at a campground, we purchase Wi-Fi through them, we can help boost and pick up that signal, amplify it through our unit, or we can get with a cellular provided at wineguard.com, get a SIM card for that system, and we can have Wi-Fi with us wherever we go. And behind me here, we do have our closet with the upgrade for a washer-dryer system. We have our plumbing right there for that washer-dryer. And then you'll also see wireless charging outlets in here as well as our USB ports to be able to plug in our phones.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us. And keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.